Welcome to your City Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube and Facebook Live. Leavenworth City Commission meeting will be open to the public with limited seating capacity. To reserve a seat, email cwilliamson@firstcity.org no later than 4 p.m. on September 8th. Seats will be available on a first-come, first-served basis. To mitigate the spread of COVID-19, face coverings and social distancing are required to attend the meeting. In accordance with Kansas Open Meeting Act, the meeting can be viewed on Channel 2 and via Facebook Live. The public is encouraged to continue to view the meeting via Facebook Live or Channel 2 and to submit public comments to be read during the public comments portion of the meeting and questions on agenda items to be read during discussion on that topic. Submit your comments or questions to cwilliamson@firstcity.org no later than 6 p.m. on September 8th. For call-in options related to commenting on agenda items, submit your inquiry to cwilliamson@firstcity.org. So the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. First, second order of business is a proclamation that I'm going to read. And this is City of Leavenworth, Kansas, proclamation. Whereas September 17th, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document, its memorable anniversary and the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Myron J. Mike Griswold, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2020 as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. In witness whereof I set my hand and have affixed the great seal of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, this 8th day of September in the year of 2020, signed Myron J. Mike Griswold, Mayor, City of Leavenworth, Kansas. So that's an important proclamation, and I'm very proud to have read it. And I think it's going to go to the Daughters of the American Revolution chapter, our local chapter, so we'll make sure that that happens later this week. The next agenda item are consideration, old business, consideration of previous meeting minutes. We have minutes from August 25th, 2020 regular meeting and September 1st, 2020 special meeting. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes from the August 25th, 2020 regular meeting and the September 1st, 2020 special meeting as presented.
Commissioner Leavenworth, I second.
There's a motion and a second on the table. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard.
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
And I, as the mayor, vote aye. The votes, the ayes have it, 5-0. The motion carries, so we've approved the minutes from our August 25th and September 1st, 2020 meetings. Next, second consideration ordinance and development agreement, Community Improvement District, luxury and imports.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, the Assistant City Manager Taylor Tedder will handle this item.
Hello, Mr. Tedder.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Mayor and Commission. So tonight, before you are two items. The second consideration ordinance of the CID for luxury and imports and their development agreement. So changes from the first consideration ordinance, which I detailed at the last meeting, were that the proposed CID sales tax percentage is now 0.40%, and the total projected cost of the phases eligible for CID reimbursement amount to $1,610,000. As a reminder, Community Improvement District places an additional sales tax on items sold in the district, which then in turn pays for those eligible project costs. So to outline a little bit of the development agreement for you, it includes performance measures and benchmarks for receiving the disbursements of the eligible project costs within the CID. Highlights of that are related to the benchmarks and caps include a front lot and side lot amounting to $254,000. Phase 2, a side lot of $106,000. Phase 3, a new building additional lot for $750,000. And then Phase 4, renovation of existing building, office, service areas, and existing lots and landscaping of $500,000. So each of those items is reimbursable at a 75% cap on that of the actual project cost. And the total cap of disbursements will not exceed $1,207,500, which is 75% of the actual project cost of that 1.61 million. So there are the two actions before you tonight. First, the ordinance presented for second consideration, it requires a roll call vote. And then the development agreement is presented, and it does need a motion. So I am here to answer any questions that you might have, and I believe that we have the applicant, the owner of Luxury Imports, Ted Ray, on the phone, and he could speak to how the CID will help the business continue to grow. Ted, are you there on the line?
Hello, Taylor.
So if you want to go ahead and kind of talk about how the CID will help your business, as we had talked about a little bit.
Sure. Well, thanks for allowing me to be on the call. What are the biggest things that we have? The two biggest pieces of this is the expansion of the lot, which is going to give us more frontage on 4th Street. That's the way that we restructure the lot's going to probably give us another 60 spaces for showcasing the inventory that we have. So that is going to be a huge deal. The second piece, and what kind of slows us and prevents us, I think, from selling more vehicles, is we're bottlenecked with our the reconditioning facility that we have. We're out of space, and the proposed building that we're looking at starting is going to give us tons of expansion capabilities. We'll be able to do the body shop alone will be able to, at a minimum, double the gross profit that they're doing right now. And there's just a lot of opportunity. But basically, getting the cars through the reconditioning process will be sped up quite a bit from the new building that we're going to use for reconditioning.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. This is Mayor Griswold. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions or comments for Mr. Ray? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Batter.
Yes, Mr. Ray, how many do you estimate additional job creation through this, and how many jobs, if so?
Well, I would say there's probably at least 10, and mainly fixed operations people that we we would hire. And if you look at our goal, I think that we pay extremely well for the area. I would say that most of the jobs are going to be in that $50,000 plus. If you took all of those wages or all of those jobs and averaged out what their annual salaries are or their pay, it's going to be over $1,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Ray? I've got a question, Mr. Ray. How long has your business been in Leavenworth?
Since 1999.
Okay, so you're 21 years old this year, basically.
Well, we actually, we are, the business is 26 years old.
Okay.
So I started in 94.
Okay.
I grew up in Leavenworth. I quit my corporate job
Okay.
to do the car business full time in 99.
Very good. Can I ask, and I know this is, a future project, but how have things been over the last 5 or 6 months, just in general, in terms of the business and your customers and this unprecedented health crisis we're in right now, and some of the economic consequences that some of our businesses are experiencing? How are you doing?
Well, so the second week of March, we went in the tank through the middle of April. That 30 to 40 day period was terrible.
Okay.
But May, we sold more cars in May than we ever have. We sold almost, I think, 245 cars in May.
Well,
This is with all three stores. But Leavenworth does the majority of the sales
okay.
between the three stores. But no, May we did 245. I think June we did 222 cars.
Okay.
We've been doing really well, but I think the industry's doing really well. And you read that in the news. That's why
Okay.
car prices are right now.
That's good. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Initially it was rough sledding, but things seems to have stabilized and maybe even gotten a little bit better. So I appreciate you sharing that with the commission and also our citizens. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Ray? Do I need to read? Can I read the ordinance, or before we? Do you want me to read the 8143? Do we need to read it, or no? Okay. All right. So this is a second consideration, so we're gonna have a roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor, I have some questions for Mr. Tedder.
Okay.
On section 5, Mr. Tedder, imposition of CID sales tax, 0.4% for a period of 22 years. Is it for a period of 22 years or 1.2 million, whichever comes first?
That's correct, whichever comes first.
Okay, it doesn't state, or does it state it someplace else? Because on section 5,
That is being clarified in the development agreement as well, which is, this ordinance is subject to the terms of that.
okay, so it's in there, okay.
Good question.
So, I'm sure Mr. Ray knows this, to recoup 1.2 million on 0.4%, he has to do $300 million in business, and that's very possible over 22 years. The amount of cars that he runs through his operation and service agreements, and just think of $300 million at 0.4% to recoup some of his costs, but just think of the other taxes that go into the coffers of the city of Leavenworth as well as the county of Leavenworth. So this is a major employer, a major producer of tax revenue in the city, and these are things that we need. This is an excellent opportunity for the city as well as for Mr. Ray and Luxury and Imports.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Preisinger. Any other comments or questions before we take ordinance number 8143 under second consideration? So we are going to begin with a roll call vote, and we are going to begin the voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowder,
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard,
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger,
Aye.
and I, as the mayor, vote aye. Ayes have it, 5-0, motion carries. So we've approved the second consideration of ordinance number 8143.
Just some points of clarification for Mr. Tedder that he can answer. The CID district is only for, it's only gonna be luxury and imports. It doesn't sneak over to Hardee's or
That's
anything
correct.
else. You can see it's kind of an L shape, I guess.
It's only-
District you can see on the map, and it's only, no other retail is affected by it.
That's
Only-
correct, it's just property that they own.
Okay. And have they already purchased the property from citizens?
Yes.
They already own it. And are they already working it? Is it?
The
are they
project.
already-
They have one lot that's not included in this project already completed.
Okay.
And then they're looking to do the next lot in a week or two, yeah.
And since we voted on it tonight, does it go into effect tomorrow, or I think it does?
So technically, the CID goes into effect by my understanding, but they have to register, Carla will register their sales tax number with the state, and the actual sales tax will go in effect January 1.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. But next, we have to discuss, or next is a motion, we have to have a motion to approve the development agreement. Are you gonna talk a little bit about the development agreement, or have we said everything that needs to be said as far as?
I believe,
Okay.
I touched on the high points. I think one thing that I did leave out, if you see in the development agreement, there is a number there for their base year of sales. And so, because of the pandemic, to be a little forgiving for that, 2021, they don't have to meet 5% over their base, but for years subsequently after, they have to meet just the 5% over their base year to receive any disbursements.
And the base year is, I'm looking at the agreement, I should have
The base,
known that.
it's over 16 million.
It's, the base year is defined not by a year, but by a dollar amount. The base year taxable sales of $60,725,000 and some change.
16 million, you say, Mr. Waters?
$16,725,617. So about $16.75 million roughly is the value. And so under the terms of the CID, in order to receive the disbursements of CID funds, they have to exceed those base year sales by at least 5%. The exception for that being for this first year, city staff determined that because just as a result of COVID and such, that they would be eligible this first year without having to meet that threshold. But so beginning in 2022, they would have to meet that sales requirement.
Okay. Mr. Tedder?
Were you able to hear the number?
Was it 16 or 60?
It's $16,725,617.
Okay, that's the base.
Base.
The,
So plus 5%
is it
after 2021.
and an extra 800, just 5% one time or 5% per year?
They consistently just have to meet that extra 5%.
Okay, an extra 800,000.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Waters and Mr. Tedder.
Any questions or comments by the other commissioners before I entertain a motion on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the development agreement with the city to the developers Ray Holdings LLC, commonly known as Luxury and Imports, as presented.
Can I have a second?
Commissioner Wilson, I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for this particular agenda item. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard,
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
And I, as the mayor, vote aye. The ayes have it, 5-0, motion carries. So we've approved the development agreement with Luxury and Imports between the city and Luxury and Imports. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ray.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank you,
Bitter.
guys.
Take care. Have a good rest of your week.
You too.
The next agenda item is consider agreement for services, Brycer.
Public comment.
Oh, hold on a minute. That's right. Hold on, I gotta get back to the index. Thank you for keeping me straight. Yes, new business, public comment. Ms. Williamson, do we have anybody?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. So we're next gonna consider the Compliance Engine / Brycer LLC agreement for services, and we believe we have Fire Chief Gary Birch in front of us. So, hello, Chief Birch.
Hi. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight. At the study session last week, I kind of explained what the compliance engine consisted of. And in order to get this started, it's a simple agreement that we would enter into. It's at no cost to the city to enter into this agreement. The term is a 3-year term. It just automatically renews for another 3 years unless either party gets a 90-day notice on the agreement. So it's a pretty simple agreement. They basically, Brycer, basically will provide us with this stuff, but they actually kind of work with us. Any notices they send out, which they'll send out notices to the individuals 30 days in advance, just to remind them, make follow-up with phone calls. It'll take a while, once this agreement's signed, it'll take a while to get going because they have to build the database. So we'll provide them with information and stuff that we have currently in our database. And then they start, they'll contact all the third parties, the people who do the inspections,
Right.
and let them know that we've adopted the compliance engine. And like I said, most of them people out there are familiar with it. So they'll start reporting too as they go out and get an inspection. Then they'll start reporting back that way too. So over a period of time, within the first year, we should have a pretty good handle on how many facilities that we have with some type of suppression fire safety system within the city. It'll be a big help to us, and it's a good tool, I think, to help us capture and make sure that everything is working and efficient in the city.
And the business model is, in terms of Brycer being paid, there's a certain fee that the third-party contractors, when they go out and do a job, that they pay to Brycer? Is that how it works, Chief?
That's correct. The third parties actually, when they enter into that database, that we'll have access to look and see, where things are at. They pay, it's basically about $15 was what they pay to that. And the third party that I talked to talked very positive of it, and he said that his volume of work is increased a lot, and so it overcome the amount of money. But also, he said even the business owners kind of like it because they know they're in compliant now and everything, and it's a reminder for them and stuff. So he thus recommended it. So.
Yeah, in terms of visibility and an inventory of those commercial establishments that have to get inspected, I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, you went into more detail last week, but I understand it, particularly hearing it for a second time. Are there any questions or comments for Chief Birch? Anything else, Chief?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the compliance agreement between the City of Leavenworth and the Brycer LLC for services as outlined in our staffing reports.
Commissioner
Clear
President, can you add to have the city manager enter into that agreement?
Okay. I'll pull back my other motion, and Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agreement with Brycer LLC with the City of Leavenworth and Brycer LLC, and the city manager has approval authority. Is that what you wanted me to
Yes.
say? With the city manager having final approval authority.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Bowder, second.
There's a motion and a second on this particular agenda item. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard?
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger?
Aye.
And I, as the mayor, vote aye. The ayes have it, 5-0. The motion carries. So we've approved the motion authorizing the city manager to enter into a service level agreement with Brycer LLC. Thank you.
Did Assistant Chief Brooks want to say anything? You can come here both nights.
Thank you for your work on this, Fire Marshal Brooks. You can go though. I mean, if you,
He wanted to go.
unless you want to stick around for the rest of the agenda items, Chief. Take care. Hold on. So the next first consideration ordinances are first consideration ordinance adopt 2020 Uniform Public Offense Code. Is this going to be our police chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hi, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commission. This is Police Chief Pat Kitchens. The police department is before the governing body this evening asking for your authority to place an ordinance on first consideration to adopt the 2020 Uniform Public Defense Code for Kansas cities for use by the city of Leavenworth. Every year, the Kansas League of Municipalities produces a standard book for communities to use in their enforcement. It's designed to provide a comprehensive public defense ordinance, and the city of Leavenworth has used it for many years. It does not take effect until the city's governing body passes it as prescribed in the Kansas statutes. There are some minor changes that there are every year with definitions and corrections and that sort of thing, but there are two issues that are of significance that I want to bring to your attention before you consider adoption. The first of which is a brand new section of the ordinance, section 10.29, violation of a public health order. I'd like to read that out loud. It would state, it shall be unlawful for any person to violate, refuse, or fail to comply with a written order of the county health officer, board of health, or director of health issued under their respective authorities. So I'll stop right there in case there might be discussion. I think for obvious reasons, over the course of the summer, as we dealt with the pandemic, there was a series of orders issued by the governor, and then there were orders issued by the public health officer. There was some discussion about where the law enforcement officers are in terms of enforcement, where we would draw our authority. So I think this is the effort by the league to clear that up. If someone outlined in the ordinance issues an order, for example, that you are required to wear a mask, and the police were sent to enforce that, we would make a determination, and if they were in violation of that health order, we would issue them a citation under this local ordinance if you so choose to adopt it. So that's a particularly new part of the standard traffic, the Uniform Public Defense Code. And I will want to stop here before I proceed to make sure there aren't any questions or any clarification about this particular part.
Chief, this is Commissioner Preisinger. It says county health officer, board of health, or director of health. In Leavenworth County, we're talking about the county health officer specifically. We don't have a board of health or director of health. Is that correct? So these aren't like county health officers, Leavenworth County Board of Health. We're not talking state level or another level. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Whether we have them here or not, I think the Board of Health probably refers to the Kansas Board of Health. Whether or not they have the authority to issue those or not. But yes, this is specific to the county health officer issuing some type of public health order. And if there were a need to enforce that, this particular section, if you chose to adopt it, would be included, would derive authority for a local officer to issue a citation here. And it looks like Mr. Waters wants to weigh in and provide some clarification.
I'm just going to clarify that under the statutory scheme, most county commissions themselves on the county board of health. They kind of put on the hat that, okay, now we're sitting as the county commission and now we are sitting as the board of health. So generally it's the same body, but they can sit as the county board of health.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Preisinger?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Waters.
Are there other questions or comments on this particular part of the public offense code that Chief Kitchens just briefed us on? Anything from other commissioners? Any questions? Do you want to proceed, Chief Kitchens?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other primary issue that would be a pretty significant change is I would be recommending that you opt out and not adopt sections 3.21 sexual battery, section 4.1 lewd and lascivious behavior, section 4.3 selling sexual relations, and section 4.4 buying sexual relations. The Kansas Court of Appeals issued a ruling recently which indicates that if you are convicted of one of these offenses, there are components that may require you to register as a sex offender, but in order to do that, it has to be in a court of record, and the municipal court is not a court of record. So myself, our new city prosecutor, Catalina Thompson, has been working with Mr. Thompson's office to prosecute those cases in the district court, which would be a court of record. And so he's agreed to do that, and that's why we are making the recommendation that you adopt this, but exempt these out so that those cases can be adjudicated at the district court level.
That's pretty clear. Any questions or comments for Chief Kitchens or Mr. Waters on this particular point of which we've just been briefed on?
Quick question. You know, these are reviewed real closely by the league, right? League of Kansas Municipalities. Is that right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
And, you know, obviously they should know about the Kansas Court of Appeals opinions and things. Mm-hmm. Why would they still have it in here if this is a brand new, if they just put this newest iteration out here and, you know, we're finding out that it doesn't apply?
So there are some examples of a case where you might want to proceed with criminal cases, but you might not be terribly concerned about whether or not they register as a sex offender. And I will give you an example of that. Say a husband and wife, both consenting adults, happen to misbehave in the darkness of the movie theater. And that's still a violation, and it would be a misdemeanor offense. The question then would be whether or not you want to proceed and have them register as a sex offender for something like that. And so I think that the option is for each community to decide for themselves if they want to go to that extent on those minor kinds of events. I should also just sort of warn you, there's some expectation that this case that they made the decision on is likely to go to the Kansas Supreme Court, so it may change next year, and that is not uncommon when these kinds of recommendations or these kinds of events take place, you know, throughout the course of the year. If that makes sense and answers your question.
No, I understand now. Thank you. Thanks for the explanation.
Any other comments or questions on this particular aspect of this Uniform Public Offense Code that we're being briefed on for Chief Kitchens? Anything else on this? Anything else, Chief Kitchens? Or I see that there's no budget impact. So is there anything else, Chief, that you have for us on this one?
No, sir, there's no other comments. Those are the two primary issues. I would make a recommendation is that you pass the standard Uniform Public Offense Code for 2020 with the inclusion of the section 10.29 and with the exemptions of those that I outlined.
Right.
Is my recommendation.
Right.
And one other point, is this new that selling, giving, or furnishing cigarettes or tobacco products to a minor, is that a new section or has that always been in there?
That's not new. I don't think there's any changes to that. That may have to do with the tobacco 21.
Yeah, there is, I believe that there's been an exception made for the tobacco 21 because the Uniform Public Defense Code has the 18 years of age. So while you're adopting the UPOC, the recommendation of the department is that that's another section that be modified because of your adoption of the 21. So that would be something else that is not part of the UPOC that you would adopt.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this particular agenda item? So this is, seeing none, this is an ordinance that is being placed on first consideration that adopts the 2020 Uniform Public Offense Code for Kansas cities for use by the city of Leavenworth, including the noted exemptions, which Chief Kitchens has outlined to the commissioners and which we've had a discussion on. So we have to go around the horn, and it's not a vote, it's a consensus. So I'm going to begin with Commissioner Bowder, or are you?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Leonhard?
Yes.
We've got a consensus.
Okay. We do have a consensus. All right. The next item is, hold on a minute, is first consideration ordinance adopt 2020 intersection traffic control device master index. Probably Chief Kitchens again.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is Chief Kitchens.
Okay.
The police department's also before the governing body asking for your authority to place an ordinance on first consideration that adopts the 2020 intersection traffic control device master index. Each intersection in the city of Leavenworth that has a control device, whether it's a signal or a stop sign, is controlled. We have gone through and identified annually each of the, to make sure there are no changes. There haven't been any changes or additions last year, from last year to this year, so we would make a recommendation that you place that ordinance on first consideration for passage.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Chief Kitchens on this particular agenda item? So we'll go around and we'll start in terms of seeing whether we can reach a consensus on this first consideration. Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowder?
Yes.
Commissioner Leonhard?
Yes.
And so 3 commissioners means we've met, we have consensus, so we will do that and hope, and we'll see it in the very near future in terms of a second consideration of this particular ordinance at a future meeting. Next.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more comment.
Okay, go ahead, Chief Kitchens.
Normally, we would also ask you to adopt the 2020 standard traffic ordinance book as well. There were no changes from last year to this year, so the Kansas League, I think, as an economic decision, decided not to produce any books. So just as a matter of clarification, that will simply remain in place. That was passed last year, but that's a slight difference from what we normally do. There's just no changes, so there was no need to do that.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any questions or comments for Chief on that? Okay, good. We'll go to the next agenda item. And this is the consider purchase of 711 South 3rd and 226 Olive Street.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioner, I'm going to turn this over in a second to our Public Works Director, Mike McDonald. But I'd just like to note that this is associated with the Second and Chestnut project, the large multi-block stormwater project. So Mr. McDonald's going to talk directly about these 2 properties and then give the commission and the public an overview of where we are on that big project. So, Mike.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, as was noted by City Manager, this is a request that approve purchase of vacant properties at 711 South 3rd Street and 226 Olive Street. These are both owned by the same individual, and they are where we had identified in the project plans that there would be a detention facility to assist with peak flows and very very high storms, like 50 to 100-year storms. Taylor Tedder is showing you the zoomed-in map, but the red box is the area of the property that we're discussing. The detention basin also works to improve water quality and water quantity, and we have adjusted the plans from this particular drawing to further reduce construction costs by being able to drain some of the side streets into the detention basin rather than connecting through expensive structures into the main line. In general, the project is on schedule for design. We expect to be done with the final design sometime late this year and constructed next year. We have found no more surprises than what we had originally expected to find, and we hope that it remains this way. The particular property owner, Mr. Sank, we have been discussing this project and his property with him for about 2 months. This has been an interesting exercise, and we believe that the offer he made to sell the property for $6,500 is a fair offer, and it would be proper for the city to use project funds to purchase that.
Okay, any comments or questions for Mr. McDonald? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we purchase the property 711 South 3rd and 226 Olive Street in the amount of $6,500.
Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Bowder.
Motion and a second on this particular agenda item. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard?
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger?
Aye.
And I, as the mayor, vote aye. The ayes have it, 5-0, motion carries. So we've approved the purchase of the property at 711 South 3rd Street and 226 Olive Street in the amount of $6,500. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
A quick question for Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. McDonald, this is Commissioner Preisinger, and are you still there?
Yes.
I think you just left.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm asking you this now because I know usually when you're, your last item, you usually take off, and since you're not physically here, give us an update on Thornton, when they're gonna cut the ribbon, when we're gonna be able to drive it?
Thornton Street is on schedule. They had expected to do the initial paving this week, but we think the rain is going to set us back. If it doesn't rain, we may see some activity. They will put down the first layer of asphalt, construct the curbs, and then the second layer of asphalt. At that point, they will begin work on the sidewalks and tying in the driveways. And at the conclusion of that, we will put the final layer of asphalt over the entire project. I would expect that this would hopefully be done, bearing average weather, before the end of October.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. The next agenda item is the consent agenda, and for this, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Leonhard.
Commissioner Leonhard, I move to approve claims for August 22nd, 2020 through September 4th, 2020 in the amount of $1,785,462.70, net amount for payroll number 18, effective August 28th, 2020 in the amount of $353,209.76, includes police and fire pension in the amount of $11,839.36.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner Wilson, I second.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the consent agenda. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard?
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger?
Aye.
And I, as the mayor, vote aye. The ayes have it. 5-0, motion carries. So we've approved the consent agenda for this evening's City Commission meeting. So that is it. We're going to start going around the horn, and we'll begin with the city manager, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Commission, just a couple quick notes of interest. Next week, the city will start its $1.8 million paving project. I think the number 2 million is what people remember that. We also are doing a parking lot, a striping project, and inspection services. So there'll be at least 1.8 million of actual mill and overlay on city streets. Those locations are on the city website. There's about 20 different locations throughout the city. Stretches from 1 or 2 blocks to 5 or 6 blocks of mill and overlay. So you should see some road work starting next week. This Saturday, we have another city-sponsored mask giveaway. Just like the first one, the second one is being coordinated by the Leavenworth Fire Department. And so from 2 to 4 at Haymarket Square, we'll be giving packs of 5 masks away, adult and youth. So come out on Saturday and get a pack of free masks. And then today also marked the official start of Leavenworth. We started in September, but festivities starting with Neighborhood Appreciation Day. And looks like Mr. Mayor is going to share a couple comments on Leavenworth. But we encourage you to sign up. We've had great participation, had some events sell out. And so it seems like people are embracing those. I know we have about 10 of our stamps on our passport at the Kramer House. So get out there and visit those local businesses. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. I'm going to go to Commissioner Wilson at this point.
Yeah, I just want to say, let us continue to spread love and Leavenworth. God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Leonhard.
Yeah, Commissioner Wilson, I'm right there with you. Get out this weekend and enjoy the activities of Leavenworth. Thanks, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Preisinger.
I have nothing. I'll echo all the things about Leavenworth. I know that every citizen or every address in Leavenworth received the passport book this past week, I believe it was, and it's quite interesting to look through, and I hope that people do take advantage of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bowder.
Well, I just wanted to agree with everybody else. What a beautiful time of year. I love the fall. But I also love to see the development going on and was really excited to see the starting of the tear down of the old Commander's Inn and look forward to a lot of good things coming onto that corner. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowder. With respect to Leavenworth, tomorrow, myself and I think 3 other commissioners who can make it are going to be in a short video, just promoting Leavenworth. We'll do it out here at Leavenworth Landing Park, where the activities are, set along the walkway there. I think Mr. Taylor Tedder is going to be the choreographer, and the filmmaker. Shouldn't take that long, at 11 a.m. And I'm looking forward to that. Give the Leavenworth a little promotion from the City Commission. It is a very well planned month of activities. Today was, I think was already mentioned, Love Your Neighbor Day, and I think the next significant activity is dinner date night in Driveway, which is Friday, the 11th of September. So all that information is outlined in people's passports, and so I just reiterate what everybody else says. I think it's good for families, particularly families with younger children. It's free of charge, good healthy activity, and hopefully our citizens will take advantage of this event, which is a good alternative to not being able to do Camp Leavenworth, which last year was our inaugural event for Camp Leavenworth. But this is, in terms of the COVID-19 and where we are as a community and a county, a state, and a nation, is a good month, and I think everyone can have a good time. It's been well planned, and it'll be well executed. I think that's all I have. If that probably concludes, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Hold on, Mr. Mayor.
Say again?
Has anybody participated in the hopscotch yet?
I did a little informally yesterday. I was a pretty good hopscotcher as a kid, but this one's a little smaller for the smaller kids, which is good. But we may try that tomorrow when we go out for the video. So,
Gotcha.
okay. We had a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Commissioner Wilson, I second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to adjourn this evening's meeting. We're going to begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner Wilson?
You're on mute.
Aye.
Commissioner Leonhard?
Aye.
Commissioner Preisinger?
Aye.
And I, as the mayor, vote ayes. The ayes have it. 5-0, motion carries. So we are adjourned.